Because some of your videos that I went and looked at.
Hi.
Okay.
Good morning, afternoon, 1 o'clock class. Good afternoon. Me and Di. Hi. Talk to me.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to talk about Sean's ADHD. We all know what an amazing person he is. You've changed so many people's lives. You have. It's incredible. Just
Thank you, girl.
you can see
Thank
it goes
you.
so far back, and people just you're very special. But anyway, you were diagnosed at age 8, correct? And
Yeah.
you said you kind of caused some problems in school.
Yeah, we used to get report cards back in the day, they're handwritten from Sister Grace and Sister Mary. And there was always a category called self-control. And I always got an I in self-control, which meant, what did I mean? It was S was satisfactory, I needs improvement, and U was unsatisfactory. I used to get those a couple times too, because I couldn't sit still. I mean, never. My brain was everywhere. I was diagnosed it was hyperactivity. That's what it was called back in the day. It wasn't called AD. It was called hyperactivity, then it became ADD, and then it became ADHD. So the hyperactive part came into the diagnosis, the acronym. And I know that I recently got re-diagnosed when I was 40. I don't think I told you this. Because hyperactivity, I just assumed that became ADD, but then I went and talked to a guy and he said, dude, you've got ADHD. And I totally had forgotten that diagnosis before, but it was actually causing huge mood swings because I was letting myself get spread too thin. And then he likened it to a telephone operator. For those of you younger than me, a telephone operator was the person that used to have to connect to make phone calls. So he said that, you know, ADHD people have amazing telephone operators. Like, they're really, really quick. They can make a lot of connections at once like this. But then all of a sudden they get tired. And they shut down completely. And that's what would happen. Like, I'd fall into these crazy dark depths. So if I'm assuming it can happen to kids too. I'm guessing it can happen to kids too. But it was interesting to get re-diagnosed after all these years. I totally forgot to tell you about that when you were asking me the questions before. So, yeah, but age 8, and it was just a cycle of I couldn't sit still in class until Mrs. Page in 5th grade. She was amazing. Yeah, she was incredible.
Got your advanced math.
Yeah, she figured out how to keep me busy. The way to keep me busy was to keep me doing math that was actually above grade level, and helping my classmates that couldn't figure out their math homework. So I would work with them in the back of the room. I work individually. I work with Mara Alfieri. Hi, Mara, if you're watching. You're not. And she was great too. She wasn't ADD at all. She was just brilliant. And I would talk to her if I didn't understand something. And if I did understand something, I'd work independently or tutor my classmates. But Mrs. Page figured it out. It's just keeping me busy, but not keeping me busy ridiculous. Like, just keeping me kind of just at that level of engaging my mind, because I would get bored pretty easily. You know, I think that's why drumming was so appealing to me, because I get my entire body moving. I think that's why sitting on yoga balls for a desk is fairly appealing. You don't have to look at that, I guess.
Nobody will mind. Sure. Okay, so you started drumming at age 10, is that correct?
Yep, in 5th grade with Mrs. Page. She used to.
What a wonderful
I remember she used to. I think it was just coincidence that it was then, but she used to get frustrated every once in a blue. She was freaking awesome. She was an amazing lady. I stayed in touch with her over the years. But I used to tap on my desk. Before I had drums, I would hear songs in my head and play it. And she was like, Sean, enough. You know, and it was really cute because I would even get to her, the lady that fixed me, you know.
That's neat. So she embraced your personality that way instead of trying to...
And she had boys, too. So I'm sure that it helped having Brian and Bobby Page. Never forget that. Brian played guitar. And Bobby was a football player, I think. Huge dude. Yeah, I think having that helped. So, took me under her wing a little bit.
So then you started guitar at age 12 and started writing music at 17, correct?
Mm-hmm. A good memory.
A plethora of talent.
Well, I don't know. It's all music. I guess that's all falls under the same umbrella. But yeah, keeping myself busy. That's why the ADHD, if you've ever gotten... There's tests for it. There are little like instruments they use to measure your ADD, if you are ADHD or if you're not. I remember taking one a couple years ago, and I realized that there's like, I view it as AD and H. There's the AD part and there's the H part. And I don't think I have the attention deficit part. I definitely have the hyperactivity part. Because I don't, the thing that I'm classic case ADHD is if I have 3 hours to myself, I can get an infinite amount of work done. But if you give me 3 hours of 5 minutes at a time, I get nothing done. Right. Because I can't stay focused on that one thing. So that's why I'm textbook there, but I don't have the attention deficit. I'll remember things from years ago. It blows people's mind. Like, I thought you were ADD. I'm like, I thought I was too, you know, and I am. But there are certain parts of my personality that don't exactly match, and that's why it's a spectrum like any other disorder, I think. I read an article not that long ago that said ADHD shouldn't be called a disorder. It should be called a gift, which I personally kind of agree with. I mean, it allows me to multitask pretty well. I mean, I don't multitask well, but when it comes to certain things, I can. Like, I can garden while playing with Max, and generally get both things done fairly well. Or I can fly fish while I'm catching a snake. Like, right. I can generally do.
Seen the Facebook post. Very simple things.
Sorry about that. That's ADD. Post.
I love it. We're never sure what you're doing, but you're doing it. That's awesome.
Well, it's usually 5 things at once.
I know. With a big ass smile.
Well, it's Max. I mean, how can you?
Oh, I know.
I mean, look, it's Max. How can you not smile? Anyway.
He's gonna grow up and be awesome.
Oh, you seen his hair recently? It's ridiculous.
I know. I saw when Jen brushed it. And got
oh my god, the man bun,
so
the
cute.
hair,
The man bun. I love the man bun.
Cutie.
Is he doing the Locks for Love 2 thing?
I don't think he'll ever cut it off, honestly.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't think he will. I gotta take better care of mine. He's had some dreads. Poor dude. We have to wash it a little bit more. I scrubbed it out last night, but he's got wonderful hair.
Awesome. Okay. So medication was suggested, but never.
Yeah, and never was. I told you a story about my aunt, right? The story when we found out that red food dye was. We think red food dye was one of the big triggers for my. Oh no. I didn't tell you this. I probably didn't tell you because it wouldn't have translated well to question and answer. But so my mom and my dad, when they were married, so I must have been probably like 3 or 4, decided to go out for a date because, you know, once you have kids, that kind of slows down quite a bit. And so they called my Aunt Nancy and my Uncle John to come over, and they came over, and they didn't have kids at the time. And it's amazing after this they ever did. But so apparently my Aunt Nancy gave me strawberry ice cream, which I loved, and I still love. I mean, I love it's a fun like summertime thing. And the story goes that my parents came home. My uncle was passed out in his shorts. He had taken his shirt off because it was so hot from chasing me around. I was passed out on his leg. And my aunt was like standing by the door, tapping her foot, ready to leave as soon as my parents got home. Because the trigger in the strawberry ice cream just set me right over the edge. Like I became like a little demon. Kind of like when they get water on gizmos in the movie Gremlins.
Yeah, in Gremlins.
Strawberry ice cream was my
so cute.
my water. I know they're so cute, just like this 4-year-old version of Sean. So diet was a big thing.
It was.
And that was a huge thing. Mom really was very careful about my diet. And I can, to this day, if I don't eat right, I try to eat right. But if I don't eat right, I can and Max is the same way, which is so funny. If he doesn't eat right, if he skips a meal, or if he has a crappy like snack or something like that, it'll work poorly. So yeah, diet was huge versus drugs. I'm not saying that drugs wouldn't have worked. They may have, but I'm kind of glad she didn't, because I was talking to the guy when I was 40 and re-diagnosed. One of the first things he wanted to do was write me a script for Ritalin. Like, he's like, dude, you're ADD, I can write you a script today. And I'm like, why? You know? And as he started talking, I asked him why, and he told me why. I'm like, but that sounds like maybe it would help with the lows that I was having. You know, I wouldn't drop into those depths, but I also wouldn't have those bursts of creativity. I mean, I've written songs writing the work sometimes that are now recorded and released. That one I played for you,
yeah,
I wrote that in probably 20 minutes on my bike once. Like, I'm not sure that would have happened.
I don't think it would.
If I was, I mean, I hate to say clouded because it makes it sound like drugs are bad, or Ritalin or Adderall are bad, but I mean, it might have been bad for me. I think I shared that line that I wrote with you. Can I just finish the album before I go on Ritalin? Like I wrote that line around that time because I thought, would that cloud all these ideas I email myself for classes? You know, would that also cloud that? I don't want to find out. So
no, that would.
I'll just deal with it other ways.
You wouldn't be you, I don't think.
I don't think so either. I'd be like a slightly quieter. Might be a good thing.
I don't know.
Slightly quieter version of me.
That would really be odd.
It might be. It would be. Yeah. So no drugs.
That's good.
No drugs. And I told you that story about what I found in my closet when I started working at that school. That was freakish. I'll let you tell them in class. But that blew my mind because a lot of those guys I knew, and I'm like, wow. and then watching them coming back from the nurse's office drinking Coke after
Right.
after medicating, I'm like, oh my God, like what is going on? So anyway,
Did they seem to improve from the medication, or did it seem to maybe?
I don't remember being
don't
ADD
remember.
myself. Some of
Oh,
that
that's
just
true.
gotten flushed out.
That was
Yeah,
all-
I mean, it was an all boys school. You can imagine what that was like. Yeah, an all boys Catholic high school. You can only. It explains
There's
so
a
much. It explains so much.
That's awesome. Okay, well, I think probably this will be plenty for the class.
Cool.
And-
More than enough.
Oh no,
Sorry.
I'm sure it's great because it shows a positive. You know, ADHD doesn't have to be a bad thing.
I don't think it is a bad thing. I think it's a wonderful
is.
thing if you know what it looks like and how to deal with it constructively.
Yeah.
Like how to harness it. That's what Mrs. Page taught me. How to harness it
Yeah.
into the right
Harness that
way.
energy and that
Yeah.
all that.
Exactly. There's so much going on up here. That operator. Remember that operator, that vision of that operator connecting those calls, and then finally just like shutting down, keeping her from getting to that point. That's what it's about. It's about keeping her from crashing. You can keep her. That's what Mrs. Page was so good at, keeping me occupied. That's what it blows my mind. She reminds me of my friend Jenny Cruikshank, who teaches Total Fit here at COCC. She can watch 50 people in a class and keep tabs on each one, not constantly, because that's just like freakish, but she can look for modalities in what's happening and address it as it needs to be addressed. And Mrs. Page was just like that in my 5th grade class. So I was very, very thankful.
Very fortunate for you.
Yeah, extraordinarily fortunate.
And for all of us. I
Aw,
would
you're
say.
a doll. Thank you, girl.
Thank you, Sean, very
Yeah.
much.
So good talking to you.
Oh, you too, sweetheart. Oh, God.
You guys have fun.
Tons of fun.